You're listening to the Align and Inspire podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Monique, and in this episode, I want to share with you 7 ways to grow your audience without using Instagram. So let's get into it. A common misconception that I often hear from coaches, from mentors, from experts is that in order to have or grow an online business, you need to be on Instagram. And for some people, that's great. They already like Instagram. They're already using it. They're interested in using that platform. But what if that's not true for you? What if you're the kind of person that doesn't really like using social media? What if you don't like going on social media? What if you don't like the idea of being on Instagram? What if you don't like showing your face? What if you don't like being on video? What if you're a therapist and it feels like you're breaking the rules of non-disclosure? How can you build your business without being on Instagram? That is what I want to get into today, because the truth is, yes, Instagram can be a fantastic tool to grow your business. There's no doubt about that, but it is not the only way. And honestly, if it really was a requirement, you wouldn't see all of these influencers with thousands of followers on Instagram making very little money, right? So it's not necessarily about growing your Instagram account that's going to make you money. I mean, even when you look at my Instagram account right now, I fully support myself with my online business and have for years now. And honestly, I do not have that large an Instagram account. I'm working on it and I'm growing it and I'm enjoying it at the moment. But I have built an entire sales mechanism that does not require me to post daily on Instagram. So I wanted to record this week's episode for you because I hear a lot of people saying to me, oh, can I grow a signature program without being on Instagram? I really want to do this, but I don't want to go on Instagram. So I want to share 7 ways with you that you can grow your online business without having to use Instagram if you don't want to. Because the most important thing is really honoring and recognizing who you are and finding ways to grow your business that works for you, that you feel good doing, that really work well with your natural strengths. So the first thing that I want to share today, the first big idea, before I get into the 7 ways, is I want to break down like a principle for you that you need to keep in mind when you think about growing your audience. Because one of the things that I've found in the past is I used to think about growing my audience as this big, daunting task that I didn't really feel very good at. Now, that was a story, of course, but I told myself that I'm not very good at growing my audience. I'm really good at getting to know people and nurturing my audience and connecting with people, but I'm not very good at getting in front of new audiences. And I have to tell you that that was completely not true. I just didn't get the fundamentals of what it takes to grow your audience. And so there are actually only 3 main methods for growing your audience, whether you use Instagram or not. And you need to understand these 3 fundamentals to be able to actually grow your audience. And even before we get into that, in a moment, I'm going to touch on what I mean by growing your audience versus grow your business. But let's talk about growing your audience first. There are 3 main methods. The first is to build. The second is to borrow. And the third is to buy. So the first thing you can do is build your audience organically. So when you think about posting on Instagram and growing your following on Instagram by posting, that's an example of building your audience. You might be building it through content. You might be building it through YouTube. You might be building it through Instagram. You might be building it through Facebook groups. There's lots of ways to be building it, but it's that you are putting in time and energy to create content to build your own audience. So that's the first way, is to build. The second way is to borrow. You're going to get in front of someone else's audience and speak to their audience in order to grow yours. And then the last way is to buy, and that is using ads. So when I go into those 7 ways to grow your audience without Instagram, I'm going to be breaking it down into those 3 different categories. But I wanted to, before I got into that, is to really get the difference between an audience growth strategy and a business growth strategy. The difference between an audience growth strategy and a business growth strategy is that an audience growth strategy is to get you in front of more people so that more people discover your business, who you are, and what you do. A business growth strategy for me is not just an audience growth strategy, because you can grow your audience and not grow your revenue, right? You can grow your audience, but not grow your sales. You might not get more clients just because you get in front of more people. You need to have an actual business growth strategy, which includes attracting an attraction strategy, getting in front of new people, nurturing that audience, helping them get to know you, connecting with them, and then a conversion strategy, so a sales mechanism, because you need to be able to take the people who discover you and get to know you. You need to give them a way to actually buy from you. So when we're talking about growing your business, it's not just growing your audience. It's growing your audience, yes, but it's also growing your sales. So you need to be able to take those people that you get in front of and actually sell them something. And if you're in my world, it's likely going to be a group program or a signature program. So that is the difference between the audience growth and the business growth. So today we're really focusing in on audience growth. So let's talk about the 7 ways that you can grow your audience without using Instagram. The first way is to use Facebook groups. And when you think about these strategies, I want you to keep in mind who your ideal person is and where they already hang out, okay, where they already are. So we're starting with the build method, and I'm going to share 3 strategies that you can use in the build method that don't include Instagram. The first one is Facebook groups. So Facebook groups worked really well for me with my teacher audience because teachers are already part of Facebook groups, and it's a natural place that teachers hang out. They ask questions, they share resources, they share tips and ideas and ask questions. Like, Facebook groups are a big one, and you can really get specific on your niche in a Facebook group. So you can either connect with people in someone else's Facebook group, or you can build your own. It does take time to grow a Facebook group, but if you can have one that's very specific in your niche and you can kind of find a pocket that doesn't exist yet, it can work really well. So I had, or I still have, a Facebook group for middle and secondary French immersion teachers. It's a very specific niche, and I knew it would work because there was already one for elementary teachers, that French immersion elementary teachers. And I thought, why isn't there one for high school teachers? I'm going to make it. And so I made my terms very searchable so that anytime people look up middle and secondary French immersion teachers, they find my group. And it really developed my authority in that whole niche, is because I was the one who was running that one sole group for that very, very specific niche. And it worked really well for selling my curriculum to French immersion teachers. The nice thing about Facebook groups too is that once my Facebook group was up and running and going, it took a while to get there. Facebook wants people to stay on Facebook, and they started putting my group in front of other people that might be good fits for it. So Facebook started suggesting my group to other people, and then people would join my group regularly. Like, today, I do not post in that group at all. But people still comment and they still interact there. And I still get sales there, which is truly amazing. I don't do anything with it anymore. But I had people just this week who saw it on Facebook and they've asked to join my group. So Facebook groups, if it works for your niche and people are already looking for answers in Facebook groups, can be another example of how to grow your audience outside of Instagram. The next idea is using YouTube. Now, I have never personally used YouTube. I have a few videos on there that I share sometimes when people are joining my webinars. But by and large, I don't really use YouTube all that much because you want to focus in on one platform and really grow that one platform as opposed to being spread thin on multiple platforms. But I know that YouTube can work really well, especially if you've got anything that's like a visual business. So most of the time, people who work with me are coaches, mentors who come from like a helping profession background. So like therapists, social workers, teachers, things like that. If that's you, YouTube might not be the best one for you. But if you were a PE teacher and you became a fitness instructor, YouTube could be great for you. So YouTube is really good for visual examples. Like I'm in a membership for a bar. It's called Bar Definition. And it's for people who want to do at-home bar and yoga workouts. And she built like an incredible audience on using YouTube, creating workout videos on YouTube. If you do any kind of meditation, if you do any kind of cooking, anything that's like visual that people would search, you can use YouTube to grow your audience. And then the last build strategy that I want to share with you is doing local speaking. So I discovered my fantastic brand designer at an event that I was at recently. She spoke and I thought, oh my gosh, I really resonate with what she's saying. I'm going to bring her on the podcast soon. And from that speaking engagement, she worked with me and she worked with a few other coaches that I met at that event as well. And so local speaking can be a great one for you to grow your audience if you can connect with different entrepreneurs in your area or different organizations in your area if your people are going to be going to local events. Another way that I'm thinking of is, say you're an expert and you work with parents, you can go and do some speaking at preschools or at local schools or at private schools. If you're a teacher and you're working with educators, you can do, I've used to do some professional development workshops, things like that. So that's another way that you can do some speaking to grow your audience. And the idea here is you always want to get them onto your email list, because your audience and your email list to me are different. Your audience is like the people that are discovering you, and then you can nurture them through your email list. But we're not getting into that as much today. So that's the first way, is to build your audience. And we talked about Facebook groups, YouTube, and local speaking. The next big bucket we talked about was borrowing an existing audience. And before we get into this, I just want to acknowledge the voice that you might have in your head saying, oh, I don't know if I can really speak to somebody else's audience because I don't know enough, or I'm not experienced enough, or I'm not established enough, or whatever the story is in your head. That is keeping you small. It's keeping you stuck. Just start and you can build from there. You can start in smaller audiences and then grow from there as you develop more of a baseline or more of an audience yourself. So to borrow, there are 4 ways that I want to share with you on this. The first is to do an exchange, a collaborative exchange with other people in a similar industry to you, where you all share a free resource that in exchange, people give you your email address and they can get on your email list. So I did this with teachers. I've done this with entrepreneurs, and it can be a great way to get in front of new audiences just by doing a swap. So you say, like, you get together a group of maybe 3 to 7 or even 10. I've been in really big ones, smaller ones, where one person organizes it and that you get everyone involved and everybody tells their own list. Hey, we're doing this free giveaway, or however you want to position it in a way that's going to appeal to your ideal client. And then they can get all these different free resources if they sign up for this free exchange. So you can call it a freebie exchange. You can call it a free, like, whatever you want to call it that works for your industry. But if you do that, you can easily get in front of, like, I've grown my audience, like, that's not paid. I've grown my audience easily to, like, in a week, you can get 300 new email subscribers, 500 new email subscribers, way more if you get in front of a larger audience. But it's a great way to grow your audience by getting in front of other people's email lists and offering something of value for them. So that's the first borrow suggestion. Another one is to speak at summits. So if summits are part of your industry, like there are often parenting summits, business summits, like a lot of it is entrepreneur summits, parenting summits. If there's any summits that you see in your industry, you can either apply to be part of one, or you can create one yourself and then have people apply to be on yours, and you can grow your audience from there. It's a great authority builder as well. And the idea of a summit is basically, when I've done summits before, it's usually you either do a live one, it's generally pre-recorded. You do a short training that might be 30 minutes, might be an hour. Usually mine have been 30 minutes in the past. You might participate in a Q&A like panel or forum. And basically people sign up to be part of this summit, and then they get to learn from all these different experts in a specific topic. So that can be a great one to grow your audience as well, as long as it's a good match that the people that you're collaborating with would have crossover with your ideal client. The next idea is to use podcast guesting. So if you can get on other people's podcasts, again, who have a similar audience to you, and you can get in front of them, you can grow your audience. And even better, if you can share a free resource like a freebie or a workshop that you are going to be running, then those listeners can get on your email list. And then the last idea is to guest teach in other or guest coach in other people's communities. So again, building those connections with people that you know, you can start speaking in other people's programs, especially if you know other people doing group programs. You can speak as a bonus, or even like I've spoken in friends of mine in their community when they went on vacation, for example, and they wanted to make sure they still had something valuable for their clients. I came in and spoke about my specific topic, which at the time was more about business systems, which was great. And then it's a great way to get in front of new people, and you can grow your audience and get clients from there. So I've gotten clients from doing some guest teaching before. And it's really helpful for the person running the community, because either they get, if there's like an area that they don't have a specialty in that could be helpful for their clients, you can fill that gap. Or if they want to go away on vacation, but they want to still provide a coaching call, you can basically be a sub, like a substitute coach, and they can learn a lot from you. So guest teaching is a great one. And you can always do a swap with a friend of yours who has a similar audience or a similar niche to yours, but there's some overlap. That way you can collaborate with that. So I've done different ones. So I have a very specific problem that I solve. So I help people create a signature program, right? And so I can work with someone else who might be in the Instagram growth, for example, not my specialty, and they want to learn how to start a group program. I could do an exchange with them. Or if I did an exchange with someone who focuses on selling and I focus specifically on program design, we could do a swap, because her people might want to hear from me about creating a scalable offer, and my clients might want to hear from her to learn how to sell better, which a little sneak peek actually into a collaboration that I'm doing soon. I'm going to have a guest on in the next few weeks, which I'm really excited about, who does sales psychology. She has a background in psychology. I think she has her PhD. And she combines psychology with sales and the psychology behind making sales. I think it's so fascinating. So she's going to be on my podcast in the next few weeks. So that's another example of an exchange. So you want to have something where there's crossover, but you solve different problems and you can teach in each other's communities. And then the last strategy is, of course, Facebook ads. Now you can use all sorts of ads, of course. There's Google ads and YouTube ads and things like that. And I have used Pinterest ads in the past, actually. That's another way I've grown my audience. But I currently use Facebook ads. Yes, there's obviously a bit of a learning curve to it, but I love Facebook ads because I have a sales mechanism in place as I grow my audience and as I grow my business. Because remember, there's a difference between growing your audience, growing your business. I can use Facebook ads and get in front of new people. They can come to my masterclass. You can hear about what it is that I do. You can learn some new strategies, some new ideas from me, get some breakthroughs. And then for the right person, you can join my program, which is called Signature Program Design. And that's how I get a number of my clients, is through Facebook ads. And the reason I personally love Facebook ads too is that I'm a mom and I work from 9 to 2, generally speaking. And so I have a fairly short workday, and I want to make sure that I'm still growing my audience regularly, even if I can't always do some of the more time intensive things like borrow and build to grow my audience. I want to make sure that I'm still growing and I'm speaking and doing my masterclasses. So I really like Facebook ads as my main source. And then I do other things to supplement my growth using Facebook ads. You don't have to start with Facebook ads. I wouldn't recommend it if you are a newer coach, but if you've been in business for a little while and you're confident in your offer, or you've run a beta and you want to be able to grow it, Facebook ads can be a really great suggestion. So let's look at the 7 ways that you can grow your audience without using Instagram. So the first is with build strategies, and that's using Facebook groups, building a YouTube channel, or doing local speaking. You can borrow someone else's audience by doing a freebie exchange, a summit, podcast guesting, or teaching in someone else's community or coaching in someone else's community. Or you can buy new as you grow your audience through Facebook ads. So I would love to hear if this was a helpful episode for you. Please, I would so appreciate it. Leave me a review on iTunes or on Spotify or whatever your podcast platform is of choice. I would love to hear from you. I would really appreciate hearing any reviews or any insights you have. And you can always send me a message on Instagram as well at lauramonique.business. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some of the podcast guests that I have coming up. Speaking of borrowing and getting in front of new audiences, I have some great guests coming up that are going to help you with your sales, with your profit. I'm looking forward to sharing that on the podcast in the next few weeks. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Align and Inspire podcast, and I will see you next week.